Hello, my name is Coach O. I work at Crockett and I teach Algebra 1. I also coach soccer. You might be confused because you're like, wait, I have a Coach O and it's not this guy. I'm the newer Coach O. So there's an OG Coach O and then there's me. Um, but that doesn't matter. I'm here to tell you more about high school math and why you're here. So it's important to understand that today we're starting Algebra 1 and it's the start of high school math. Whatever you did before, great. We'll build on that. If you didn't learn everything before, that's totally fine. We can work with that too. But we just wanted you to have a similar starting point, and that starting point is what math is. What is high school math? What is the next 4 years? It is the story of functions. So it helps to know what that word means. Uh, Another way to think about it, let's just use a word that we know, relationship. So you could say a function is a relationship. So if you see something happening, you could say, oh, that's just the relationship between those two things, right? Or that's the function between an input and an output, right? So anytime you see a relationship between two things, and that relationship just continues and it's the same relationship all the way down, we could say that that's a function, right? So it's something that makes sense that you see as a pattern happening over time, right? It's almost easier to understand if we just use real examples. So the function is what connects the input and the output, right? In this case, we have hours and dollars. So hours is the input and dollars is the output. And in this situation, right, 0 hours, you make $0. 1 hour, you make $12. 2 hours, you make $24. 3 hours, you make 36. How much would you make in 10? The function helps us figure out what you would make, right? So if you can pick up that we're just multiplying by 12, or if you kind of look at the dollars and notice that we're skip counting by 12 all the way down, you can use that rule of times 12. So 10 times 12, and that would tell you in 10 hours you'd make $120, right? So the most basic way to describe the function besides just showing the math is just to write it out or to say it. So in this case, the function is to find the total dollars earned, you just multiply the number of hours worked by 12, right? That's the function. So it's just a really clean relationship that repeats. Another way to think about it, in this case, the function is the same thing as what the person's making per hour, right? So we'd say the hourly rate of pay is $12 per hour, which is pretty good. I made like $5 per hour in my first job. Oh, that's so sad. But essentially, you're going to see common numbers and kind of common patterns. The words might change a little bit, but like essentially the hourly rate in this case and the function are pretty similar. Other words you might want to think about, so like when you're a little kid, you might use the word rule or pattern as you're kind of noticing things in math. Those are just other ways to say function, okay? So if you see a pattern, it's probably a function. Let's look at things that we just see all the time. So rates, we talked about that in the last one, hourly rates, right? So miles per hour, anytime you see the word per, each, or every, usually that's telling you about a rate. And that word per connects the two things we're comparing, so miles and hours. So between miles and hours, there's a relationship. Or you could say, between miles and hours, there's a function, right? So how far you go depends on how long you drive. Miles per gallon, right? So that's a function, and it's going to be different for every car. So if I drive a big truck, I'm not going to get a lot of miles per gallon, and I have to keep filling up my car. If I drive a tiny car, right, I might get better miles per gallon, so it doesn't require me to fill up my gas tank as often, right? So the functions are different depending on the different cars that you drive. This is one that is just really common, like when you apply for a job, right, they'll ask you how much you made in your last job, right? Or if you're trying to figure out how to pay your bills, it's good to know how much money you make, and they'll ask you how much did you make in a year? How much did you make in a month, right? So the dollars per year, that's a function. The dollars per month, it's less because there's more months, right? So that would look different, but it's the same idea, right? Just changing the words. And then here too, right? Dollars per week. So you get your weekly money, and that's a different type of function, right? But these are all examples of relationships between two things. Another common thing is if you think about bills, your parents might be paying these now. So go take a time out and tell them thank you for that. I think we all got phones. But so your phone bill, right? Every month, like once you buy the phone, so like the first thing you do for your phone is you buy it. And then every month you just start paying the same amount every month, right? So that's a function because it's just adding the same amount of money as it costs each month. Um, if you're like me and you're cool, you probably share some of these things with your friends. So Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, but like somebody's paying the bill, right? So if I get Netflix and my friend gets Hulu, my Netflix cost is like $9.99 a month. So if I look at my bank account, right, every month, $9.99 every month, right? It just comes out. So that's a function. It's the function between price and month. Um, all right, we're near the end. So just things to know before we like move forward and start learning actual math. There's just going to be different ways we show functions this year. So different ways to represent functions. You would have seen this stuff in middle school. So it's all the same idea. We just show it in different ways. And so one of the things we'll look at this year is, which way is the most appropriate to show the function, to understand, to make predictions. And then there are different types of functions. So up to this point, most of you probably have only seen what we would call linear functions. So you've seen lines that go up and down, or they could go from left to right. They could be moving down, right? So positive or negative. But this year we'll start to look at other types of functions. So functions that curve up and functions that curve down, functions that are kind of start out slow and then go up, 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 up. And so we don't need to know what those are yet. Just know that there's other types of functions. That's all I got for functions, but just a real quick, let's talk about the next 4 years. So it's super important that this year you like kind of reset and learn what you need to learn and do well in Algebra 1, because these first 3 classes of high school are what you need to graduate. So you need to do well these next 3 years in order to get your high school diploma. And then if you do good those first 3 years, by doing well all 4 years, you'll actually be ready for college math. So if you want to take college math at ACC, if you want to go to the University of Texas or another big school like Texas State in San Marcos, you want to make sure that you get all 4 years done and you really know what you're doing, so that when you go and start paying somebody else to go to school, you'll be ready for that. There is a chance for some of you guys, if you want to, you can take maybe like next year, if you were really good at Algebra 1 this year and you want a challenge, you can take Geometry and Algebra 2 at the same time. And that would free you up then to start taking some higher level classes that normally kids would take in college, but if you want to take them now, you can. So all I want to say to you is welcome. Take a deep breath. We're going to figure this out together, but we're just happy that you're here learning with us. Adios.